is when she took your car back and stopped providing you with funds.
Yes.
And you're in college, you're in nursing school, right?
Yes.
Were you working at the time?
Yes.
Now, when you made the post about losing both parents, what did you mean?
I lost both my parents. It was like one day you wake up and your whole life changed. I lost my stepdad, and I lost my mom and my brother. I lost everybody.
Were you trying to imply that your mom had died?
No.
Were you just stating the fact that she was arrested and you hadn't seen her since she's been arrested?
Yes.
Counsel asked you several questions about not smelling anything in the van. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Did your mom do anything to prevent you from smelling anything in the van as you were driving?
Yes. She always kept the air on. I remember a time when I was cold and I tried to turn it off, and she was like, "No, it's hot in here." And we also like kept giving the dog like little like CBD treats to keep them calm.
And you're driving in into January, early February through Texas. Was it cold in Texas?
I don't remember. It wasn't like hot and sunny though.
Mr. Tellini asked you on cross-examination that you would have never dreamed that your mom would have done something bad to Gannon. Do you remember that question?
Yes.
What do you think about that now as you sit in this courtroom?
I'm still in shock. I defended her for years, and I just feel like manipulated and lied to.
And when we started out your testimony this morning, you talked about learning about how your father actually died. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Is that what we're talking about? The manipulation that's been going on for years is finally coming to your realization?
Yes.
And do you remember when you were talking to us back in August, the questions I was asking you about why we were considering filing charges on you?
Yes.
Do you remember me asking you, what would you explain to a jury about driving across country with a body in a suitcase in the back of that van? What would you tell the jury? Do you remember that question?
Yes.
Tell this jury whether or not you knew that Gannon's body was back in that van and why.
The thought just never came across my mind. I just never thought my mom would do that. I didn't see her to be the person to do that. So I never even like questioned it. Like it just never came up.
And what would happen if you did question it?
She would just say like, "Don't question me," like saying it was back talking her.
Mr. Tellini was asking you questions about any relationships between the time your father and her separated and divorced by the time that she married Albert Stauch. Do you remember that question?
Yes.
Did your mom date anybody or go out with anyone in between that time period?
Yes.
You remember who she went out with and for how long?
There was Travis.
Did you know Travis's last name?
No.
Do you know where you were living when she dated Travis?
Myrtle Beach.
And how long did they date?
It felt like a while. A year or two.
Mr. Tellini asked you about a hospitalization at some point. Do you recall that question?
Yes.
You initially said that you thought that your mom was in the hospital because she had cancer. You remember
Yes.
cancer?
Yes.
Who told you that your mom had cancer?
I remember her saying she had ovarian cancer when we lived in Charleston.
Who said that?
My mom.
And was she telling you that because why? Why would she tell you that?
I don't know.
Were you asking what the heck you're doing in the hospital?
Yeah.
And her answer was, I have ovarian cancer.
Yeah, I remember.
You ever bring up ovarian cancer again with you?
No.
Mr. Tellini asked you questions about suicides and your mom talking about suicide. Do you recall those questions?
Yes.
He asked you on 2 different events, right?
Yes.
Do you remember one of those events being in Alaska?
Yes.
Tell the jury about that. How did that come up? What was said? What was the circumstances surrounding what was said?
Yeah, so I remember I was in my room, and she was like, "Come eat. That's your last dinner with me." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And then she was like, "It's already too late. Like, I took them." And then I was just like, "What?" And I remember crying, and I was like, "What do you mean?" And then we went and had dinner, and then it was never talked about again.
And was this at a time when she was telling you that she didn't want to be in Alaska? She had nothing to do with Alaska, wanted to move from Alaska.
Yes.
What do you think about what she said to you now?
What do you mean?
Is that a form of manipulation, as you indicated earlier?
Yes.
Had you ever seen her try to hurt herself?
No.
And the other time she talked about suicide, was this related to the hospitalization that she said she was in for ovarian cancer?
Yes.
Did you consider that to be a form of manipulation?
Yes.
Mr. Tellini asked you questions about the cell phone and the cell phone text messages that are entered in People's Exhibit 205. Do you remember reading those? And it says, for her phone, it says maybe Nicole.
Yes.
For yours, it says daughter. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Do you know why that says maybe Nicole?
No, I do not.
Do you know whether or not your mom actually programmed her name into the phone?
No, I do not.
Okay. Are you familiar with iPhones and what comes up if you don't program it with your name in there and things?
Do you mean like when you have to set the iPhone up?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So what happens if you never set the iPhone up with your name in there?
You can't use it.
Well, would your name come up?
Yes.
Or would it be something maybe? Would it be maybe somebody?
Objection. Sustained.
Okay.
I'm not sure that this is the right witness for that.
Do you know why that her phone said maybe Nicole in text messages?
No.
Sustained.
You talked about your mom quitting jobs on several occasions, especially the teaching jobs. Do you remember that testimony on cross?
Yes.
Did she ever tell you why she was quitting these teaching jobs?
Yes.
What did she tell you?
I was told that she wanted to work, and then when she would work, Albert would be mad at her that she wasn't watching the kids, and then when she would watch the kids and not be working, he would be mad at her for not working.
Did she ever mention to you that she was being sexually harassed at school and she didn't want to work there anymore, things like that?
I heard that when I was younger.
Who did you hear that from?
I don't know. I was in like middle or elementary school.
Did you hear it from your mom?
I don't remember.
Is that a common theme with your mom when she doesn't want to be somewhere? Something happens that is causing her to quit her job and move somewhere else.
It happened in Alaska.
Mr. Tellini asked you about January 26, 2020 in the morning and whether or not anyone went to church. Do you remember that question?
Yes.
Did you not, in fact, go to work in the afternoon around 2 o'clock in the afternoon that day?
Sorry, I'm like forgetting times. There's been so many times. Yes.
Let me ask you this. Would your mom drive a vehicle to church?
Yes.
And would it be either Albert's truck or her Tiguan that she drove to church?
Yes.
Would that be on one of the ring videos in the neighborhood? If they actually went to church that day, you'd see the vehicles leaving and going to church.
Yes.
Do you remember changing your clothes on January 27th, 2020 when you got off of work and then went to the Dollar Tree with Lena?
No, I don't remember.
If you went down to the basement and you went, would you go into Gannon's room for any reason?
No.
Going to the storage room for any reason?
No.
Went to the basement, would you just go to your room, change, and then go back up?
Correct. Yes.
Did you ever go into Gannon's room on January 27th, 2020?
No.
Did you ever go into the storage room on that day?
No.
Mr. Tonini was asking you questions about the Taco Bell and after the hospital. Remember, he was asking about the voice that your mother was telling you these things about rambling and words to that effect. You remember that?
Yes.
Was she telling you why she left the hospital?
Yeah, she was. I remember something being mentioned about the hospital workers and like the story of what happened.
Was she explaining that she was being treated unfairly and she actually ran away from the hospital?
I remember her saying she was treated unfairly.
Is that why you had to go pick her up at a Taco Bell instead of the hospital?
Yes.
Did she tell you that?
Which part?
Why you had to pick her up at the Taco Bell?
I don't remember.
Your mom is quite the talker. When she starts talking, she goes nonstop, right?
Yes.
Is that what we're talking about?
Yes.
Was that unusual to you? Have you seen her on numerous occasions basically talk nonstop?
Yes.
Did you ever, whether it's January 27th or January 28th or January 29th, clean up any blood at 6627 Mandan Drive?
No, I did not.
If you had, would you have been telling this jury that?
Yes.
Did you ever see any blood on Gannon's wall in his bedroom?
No, I did not.
Did you see any blood in the storage room on the floor?
No, I did not.
Did you see any blood in the basement area at all?
No, I did not.
Could you smell any cleaning down in the basement?
Our house always smelled clean.
Why is that?
My mom was like a neat freak, so she always wanted everything clean.
If you would have known Gannon's body was in the back of that van and you were talking to Agent Cohen back here, would you have told him that?
Yes.
You would have known that he was in that van when the FBI came out to South Carolina to talk to you about Gannon's body being found on March 17th, 2020. Would you have told him that?
Yes.
Do you know now that Gannon's body was in that van as you drove across the country?
Yes.
Was your mom pretty athletic?
Yes.
Was she capable of lifting heavy objects?
Yes.
Overruled.
Do you know how much Gannon weighed?
He was little, so he didn't weigh a lot.
Was your mom capable of carrying his body in a suitcase, picking it up and throwing over a bridge rail in Pensacola, Florida?
Yes.
Is that easy for you to say?
No.
You still love your mother? I'll strike that, Your Honor.
All right.
I have no further questions.
Do any of the jurors have any questions for me? Looks like we have a couple. Mr. Young, if you would retrieve those and counsel approach, please. Ms. Hunt, did you see a large green suitcase loaded into the second van?
No.
The night when your mom asked, sorry, Jess, the night when your mom asked you to go down with her to say goodnight to Gannon, do you have a specific recollection of seeing any part of his body, like his hands, face, or any part of his actual skin?
I remember seeing his head.
The morning of the first day in Pensacola, Florida, when you left the hotel, do you recall if the van was in a different parking spot than where you had parked it when you checked in?
I don't remember.
So let me rephrase that a little bit. So when you got there, the van's parked and you check in. You come out the next morning, is it in the same spot or in a different spot?
I don't remember where we parked. I just know we would always park towards the back of the hotel.
Okay. During your time living in Colorado Springs home with the other kids, Gannon and Lena, did it appear to you that Gannon was treated more strict or more unfair than anyone else by the defendant, your mom?
No.
All right. I will allow reasonable follow-up as to those questions only. Prosecution?
We would request to publish People's Exhibit 48 that's already in the evidence. Ms. Hunt, if you can look at the TV screen, this is People's Exhibit 48. Do you recognize the suitcase that we see in that exhibit?
Yes.
How do you recognize that suitcase?
I remember it from moving from Alaska or anytime we would move.
Had you ever seen that during the time periods that we've been talking about? January 27th, January 28th, January 29th, all the way up to February 4th?
No.
Those are my questions.
Defense? All right. Thank you, Ms. Hunt. You may step down. Watch your step. It's okay. Go ahead. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to end a little bit early today. So